That's right. Love, everybody. Love. Well, welcome to another edition of Marilyn's Cafe Society radio show right here on YouTube. Of course, I'm Marilyn, your host for this evening. It's another Saturday night date night. So happy to be hanging out with you on this Saturday. It's the 20th day of 2020. That's right. And of course, it's the longest day of the year. The first day of summer. Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right. Well, how was your day, everybody? I hope you had a good day. Mine was pretty decent. Of course, we've been experiencing some wonderful weather in my area. I did hear that there were some thunderstorms a little north of me, but today in my area it was just another nice day, hot, nevertheless, but nice. All right, so yeah, it's been quite a week. Of course, we did not do the Wednesday show. I just had a whole lot going on. Goldie is not feeling well. She's down. That's a little cold word there. Those who've been with the show know who Goldie is. And so, of course, that has thrown me off track. And so I've been trying to get Goldie back up and running so that I can get my life back up and running. But, that was kind of the highlight in terms of things that could go wrong in the week. Other than that, everything else was pretty good. Pretty good. Well, tomorrow is Father's Day, everyone. So, of course, we want to say Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Man, am I missing mine, Just been thinking about them often. I'm going to miss picking up that phone and wishing him a happy Father's Day, because as of late, like in the last maybe 3, 4, 5 years, he's not been in town for Father's Day, so it's always been a phone call, but as of late. But now, we'll just be wishing him a happy Heavenly Father's Day. And I hope you do something nice for your dad on Father's Day, and actually, every day. Dads count too, everybody, so remember that. All right, and so let's see, what did we say? Today is the first day of summer. Tomorrow is Father's Day, and guess what yesterday was? Everybody knows what it is now, and that is, of course, Juneteenth. And people who've never heard of the day and its significance, again, now know exactly what it is. And that's, of course, due to the recent uprising against racial injustice and inequality. And, those of you who've been with my show for, some years now, know what Juneteenth is. But for all the new people, June 19th, 1865 marked the day that the Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, to announce that slavery had been abolished more than 2 years earlier. Yeah, they were late getting the memo. And, of course, it was before telephones, before emails, before text messaging and social media. They just had to get on the horse and go to the next town and pass the good news on. But it took 2 years for them to realize that they had been free. And of course, we know that the slave masters knew it, and those people in positions of power knew it, but they just did not want to let go. Slaves and others did not know for 2 years that they were free. And so when they got this news on June 19th, 1865, that they were free, that slavery had been abolished, it was a cause for celebration. And organizers and leaders got together. They established the day and date as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, and even some called it Emancipation Day. And obviously we know that it is more commonly known Juneteenth. They combined June with the 19th, and that's how they got Juneteenth. And here we are. Obviously it was first recognized and celebrated in Texas. And as years went on, other states began to pick up on the celebration, and so it's celebrated in black communities across the country in the forms of festivals and picnics and parades. But it has yet to become a national holiday. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later on in the show. But yeah, Juneteenth has found its way on the national platform, and that's a good thing. And from what I've been reading, I didn't get out to participate in anything, but there were lots of marches and rallies and uh, lightweight festivals going on yesterday to celebrate Juneteenth, and also to continue to fight the good fight of against racial injustice and inequality. So that's just a little bit on Juneteenth for those who didn't know. And you know, this particular show was out in Bolingbrook for their first annual Juneteenth festival that they had 6 years ago. That was a lot of fun. So, hopefully more communities will start to recognize it and celebrate Juneteenth. All right, so, I was just thinking about, boy, here we are on the first day of summer. This year, 2020, has been quite a year, hasn't it? Unbelievable year, and, I'm staying positive that it's only going to get better. Of course, I say this every show, but there are some people out there who are predicting that the year will not get better. That we'll see more numbers increase as we move into the fall season of this year, in terms of the virus and everything. But I have to say, just got a little late night jazz going there in the background. I'll turn it down just a little bit so it won't overwhelm my voice. But I just been thinking about 2020. We got hit with the coronavirus, which turned into a pandemic across the world. The United States government and other governments shut down for extended period of time, 30 to 60 days or longer. And then we experienced the trauma of there being a lack of supplies and necessities available, the shock and horror of going into stores to get your toiletries and things that you normally buy, to discover that they're all gone and nobody knows when more will come in, and then as soon as more comes in, it's gone. And it was just so traumatic, right? And then of course the whole concern about moving into financial crises, and the illnesses that so many people suffered. Many people overcame the coronavirus, but of course we know that we lost lives as a result of COVID-19. And then it seemed like as soon as we thought we had turned a corner with the pandemic and the coronavirus, and states and cities were slowly trying to move into normalcy, we ended up with this uprising, all the turmoil as a result of what happened to 3 black people within a span of 2 weeks, which led into the protests, and then of course it morphed into rioting, and some people call it looting, and just people expressing themselves in the lowest possible way, because I guess they felt that's the only way that they could be heard. And then I don't know how the weather was where you live, but just as the protests and uprising and marches and all of that was happening, we got hit with a tornado in my community. So it seemed like it was just so much going on, and many of us are wearing that on our bodies, in our faces. And this is not no disrespect to anybody, but we all kind of look different. Have you looked at others, as now that people are starting to come out more? We kind of all look like we've been in the cave. We finally come out of our cave and we look like we've been in a cave. Oh my goodness, it's just crazy. And then I kept thinking, what if this was just some kind of sick joke that someone played on us? Clearly it isn't, but it just seemed like everything that has happened, you just could not have made this stuff up. You just could not have made it up. It's just been quite a year. And again, human beings are looking like we've been through something, let's just keep each other lifted and prayed up and all of that good stuff, all right? All right, in terms of the coronavirus crisis update, obviously the numbers are still ticking upward. And here in the United States, Arizona, Florida, and California have reported a record number of new coronavirus cases in a single day. I believe that was on Thursday. And California is now requiring residents to wear face masks in most public settings. They did not have that requirement initially. And as a result of COVID-19, just last week, about 1.5 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits. The number of individuals who have filed for unemployment is through the roof right now. But they're saying that things are slowly but surely getting better, and I'll put some numbers out there in a minute. I actually will talk about it right now, the good news, and maybe not so good news according to economists, but some good news as a result of COVID-19 and the pandemic and the lockdown and all of that is that people actually saved money. Yes. Why and how is that? Well, first of all, they're saying that the United States savings rate rose to 33% in April. That's the highest rate on record. Now, what are the reasons why were people able to save? Well, because they had nowhere to go. We were on lockdown. And there was nothing to actually spend money on, right? And then on top of that, most United States households received an additional income of about $1,200. That was that stimulus check that everyone got, which drove up personal income to record levels. That's amazing that $1,200 could do that. But yeah, that's what they're saying. It made such a huge difference in so many millions of Americans' lives. And so they had that added income with nothing really to spend it on. And then lastly, they're saying that people in general are just a bit nervous. The reason they're able to save is because they're just a bit nervous about spending right now because there's so much uncertainty. Nobody knows, what's going to happen. You hear these reports and they're saying there's going to be another wave of the coronavirus, and then another report is saying that, business is doing good, things are slowly reopening, and people are slowly coming out and business is picking up. And then there's other reports that talk about all of the industries that have been devastated as a result of the country shutting down and this COVID-19. And I personally know of several small to mid-sized businesses that no longer exist because of this. They just could not, they were already struggling prior to the pandemic, And once the government shut down, that was it. So the uncertainty, people are trying to hold on to their coins because they just want to be ready in case something like what happened in March and April and May happens again. So anyway, but yeah, like I said, some economists are saying all of this savings is not good for America's economy because, they need people out there spending, putting money out into circulation in order for things to kind of balance out. So we'll continue to watch it and see how things pan out in that regard. So, in other news, everyone, earlier in the week, the Supreme Court denied the Trump administration's effort to ditch the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA. Now, of course, we know that DACA started in 2012 by former President Barack Obama. It protects about 700,000 undocumented immigrants who were brought to the United States as children from deportation and allowed them to work here in the United States legally. Now, leaders from major industries and corporations support DACA, and they support the decision that the Supreme Court made. In fact, Apple CEO Tim Cook and Microsoft President Brad Smith all support it. And it appears that most United States voters support DACA as well. So I don't know what Trump is going to do now that this has happened. We'll just have to watch and see. All right, so the continued reckoning with racial injustices here in the United States has resulted in some companies removing racist imagery from their brand names and packaging, as well as nudged others to announce more ways in which they are supporting the fight against racial injustice. And so Quaker Oats, which is a PepsiCo subsidiary, announced it would change the Aunt Jemima syrup and pancake mix brands packaging this fall, as well as rename them. So what is that going to look like? All these years we all I grew up on Aunt Jemima. Yeah, I did as a kid. Used to look at the box and wonder why they got this black woman on this packaging with a scarf on her head. But we wear scarves on our head. In fact, it's an end thing now. But back then, scarves were primarily worn in the house. You didn't go outside with a scarf tied around your head. But so anyway, they're going to be repackaging that, and Mars, which makes food and candy, announced that it would reevaluate its Uncle Ben's rice brand. So, this is just another effect of what protesting can do. Google has pledged more than $175 million to black businesses and said it would diversify its leadership to include more black representation. That's huge. Netflix CEO Reed Hastings and his wife, Patty Quinlan, donated $120 million in scholarships to historically black colleges and universities. That is huge as well. And then back to the Juneteenth information I provided at the opening of the show. The NFL has announced that it will observe Juneteenth as a holiday. JCPenney's encouraged employees to take the day off, a paid day off. The state of New York now recognizes the day as a paid holiday for all state employees, as did the state of Virginia. And 47 other states and the District of Columbia had already been observing Juneteenth as an official state holiday. And just yesterday, which is Friday, or was Friday, Juneteenth, or June 19th, some lawmakers announced legislation to make Juneteenth a federal holiday. So stand by. You know how difficult it was to get Dr. Martin Luther King's Day official. So we're going to see how long it takes on this one. All right, you ready to take a look at the stock market? Let's see what was happening at the close of the stock market on yesterday, Friday, June 19, 2020. It looks like the Dow was down 0.80% to 25,871.46 points. The S&P 500 was also down 0.56% to 3,097.74 points. It was up 0.03% to 9,946.12 points. Now, gold is still doing very well. It's up 1.33% to $1,754.20 per ounce. And oil is up 1.16% to $39.29 per barrel. So good for those who have some investments in those areas. Stocks that did not do so well this week include CarMax Inc. They fell short of Wall Street's forecast, and Hertz did not do well because they scrapped a plan to sell $500 million in stocks. Yeah, they took back their word on that, and it affected them. Stocks that did pretty good this week include TrueCar Inc. They were up 10 cents to $2.90 per share, and Yum China Holdings, that's the KFC and Pizza Hut brands in China, were up 92 cents to $51.31 per share. And that's a look at the stock market report for this Saturday, September 20th, 2020. Ready for some cafe talk, everybody? I grappled over whether I wanted to keep it light or get a little heavy today, and I opted with the heavy. So here it is. I posted it on some of the social media earlier today, and I'll be reading some of the responses in a minute, but let me just set this up for you. The Cafe Talk question was, what actions have you taken to help blacks and people of color fight racism, particularly in the workplace or business? What actions have you taken ever, and especially recently, to help blacks and people of color fight racism, particularly in the workplace? I was inspired to do this one from Huffington Post. They did a nice write-up on it. In fact, they listed out some actions that can help people fight racism, and I kind of borrowed from it. I didn't plagiarize, but I just kind of borrowed some ideas from it. One of the things that I have been thinking, and of course it was part of their report, is that black colleagues, that others in the workplace or even in business need to advocate more for their black counterparts or colleagues or business partners and so forth. They need to advocate more for them, right? To help them improve business, or to get more responsible assignments in the workplace that will set them up for promotion, right? And so I think to take the attitude that well, what can I do, or well, it's not me, or it doesn't affect me, is wrong. And so I think that others in the world, and we're seeing it in these protests and so forth, really do need to open your mouth and say something. Advocate for blacks and people of color, whether it's in business or the workplace. Also, you can take it a step further and become a sponsor of a black business or colleague. Mentorship is one thing, right? Mentorship is just not just, I shouldn't say just, but a mentor is someone who, for the most part, is an advisor. You know, they may be able to make a few phone calls here and there, but for the most part, they advise. But a sponsor is someone who just gets in there with you and put their name on the line on your behalf, and really push others to see the greatness in you, and to shine the spotlight on all of the things that you have achieved and what you can bring to the table to help your company, corporation, business even do better, or whatever your service is that you're providing or product is, how it can impact others. And so they kind of put their name on the line for the person of color, or the black colleague or business partner or associate, or whatever you want to call it, right? And so again, we got to get away from the whole notion of better them than me, because in the end, if one is hurting, we all eventually will hurt. All right. And then another thing that, and this one I'll just pull directly from that article, was to once again, if you're not a person in a power position, let's just say you're just a colleague or co-worker or someone's counterpart, just give them the credit. You know how things can happen in meetings. You know, if there's a racist in charge, they're going to highlight and profile the person who is not of color and give them kudos for their achievements, and overlook the black person's efforts. And so next time that happens, white person, don't just sit there and allow that to happen, especially when you know that your black coworker, colleague did a fantastic job. Speak on it. Open your mouth and say something, and don't let them get overlooked. All right? And then lastly, check yourself. Check yourself. You know, look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I harboring some internal biases of my own that is preventing me from saying something, from opening my mouth and advocating for others, and helping blacks in the workplace, blacks in business? Ask yourself, and then ask yourself, where did it come from? Where did your prejudices, your biased thinking, where did it come from? And then work on yourself in that regard, so that you can help affect change. And again, when you're quiet, you're just as much as part of the problem as a person who is committing the act of racial injustice or inequality. All right? So back to the question. What actions have you taken to help blacks and people of color fight racism? I can honestly say, and some of you may know, those who've been with the show, or those who just know me, might know that over the years it hasn't been consistent, but over the years throughout my life, I've been actively involved in various organizations that fight for racial equality and social and human rights. The NAACP, Rainbow Push, some other lesser known organizations over the years. And I have opened my mouth in the past to confront certain issues. And of course, there's always a backlash, but those are things that I have done. I've gone to these human rights departments over the years on certain issues, I've just used my voice and what I know, and have joined in with others to try to affect some positive, progressive change in the world for blacks and African Americans and people of color. And so some people have responded to the question. Sharon D says, I've tried to post and promote entrepreneurship in the black communities. And she's also been praying for healing. Yeah, and prayer. That's not forget that, prayer. And just having the faith. And remember, faith without works is ineffective, right? So prayer, faith, and works all go together. Alrighty. And W says that she has been trying to explain that getting angry is okay, but you can't act out your anger with violence. It's best to be proactive and productive as opposed to the other. So that's a good thing, right? And let's see, do we have any more? Vote. And we can't say that enough, right? Vote. Don't just vote. Take it a step further, like I did some years ago. Become the person who registers other people to vote, right? So help others get registered to vote too as well. And let's see, what is another one here? Oh, speaking out and using your voice. That's from TT. Thank you, TT. And then I just, in conversation in general, I think some people said that we've all kind of been quiet over the years, and that's how we got to where we are now. We've kind of been quiet and just kind of accepted things and just said, well, this generation at least got in the door. Generations before us couldn't even get in the door, so now we're at least in the door. And then this whole thing with teaching tolerance, which I hate that word. Don't you dare say you're tolerating me. But this whole thing with teaching tolerance became big, right? Oh, we're going to teach tolerance. No, acceptance and respect. That's what we teach. But yeah, I was speaking to some people, and that's one of the downsides, I believe, to what has happened with why we kind of got stagnant in the civil rights movement and continued growth and progression, is that we just got quiet and decided that at least we got this far. And so we sort of help certain acts of racial injustice, prejudices and biases perpetuate by not saying nothing. And so thank you, TT, for speaking out and speaking up. We got to say something. And don't just leave people out there hanging who do. Join with them and support them, right? All right. And so that is Cafe Talk. There's another platform that I didn't get to. So if there's some interesting ones, some interesting comments there, we will definitely share them when we do the show again on Wednesday, okay? All right, well, before we wrap up the show, let's kind of look at some entertainment news. I thought this was interesting, the Oscars. You know, we all love the awards season, and that's been missing in our life for 2020, and it looks like the Oscars will not be taking place February of next year, 2021, as usual. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced on Monday that the new date is April 25th, 2021. Yeah, so they're pushing it back further into the year. Also, the new window for eligibility for films is moved back from December 31st, 2020 to February 28th, 2021. So that gives, folks more time to get those films submitted and for consideration. Now, of course, this is just another setback due to COVID-19 pandemic. And as mentioned during the show last Saturday, Hollywood studios have finally been cleared to continue with their film and television productions just last Friday. So maybe some of them will scurry along and get some major projects done that they may believe is Oscar worthy and be able to get those films submitted for consideration ahead of the next Oscars ceremony again, which has been pushed back to April 25th, 2021. Unbelievable. And speaking of films and all of that, the AMC Theaters has reversed its previous proposal not to require their attendees to wear masks once the theaters begin to reopen. That's right. They have reversed it. So now, folks, if you're going to be going to any of the AMC theaters when they open up, you must wear a face mask. And I have not met one person who has fallen in love with wearing face masks. It is so uncomfortable, especially in all of this heat. But again, folks, it's best to be safe than sorry, right? So wear those face masks until we get the clear that we don't have to wear them anymore. And then I would say still wear them for a period of time, right? Just to be safe. All right, everybody. I think that's it. That wraps up our Saturday night date night, your Saturday edition of Marilyn's Cafe Society Radio on YouTube. Christmas in July. Yeah, it's going to look a little different. I'm getting it all together. I know. We are just one more Saturday to get through, and then we'll be moving into July. So I'll have it all worked out by then, but it is going to look different. Nevertheless, you have an opportunity to promote and further expose your business, your service, your product, your brand with this YouTube show and our various other social media platforms and email and so forth. So reach out. Producer at Maryland'sCafeSociety.com is the way you can make contact. Producer at Maryland'sCafeSociety.com to participate in the Christmas in July special and to get more information about it. All right. Well, remember, I try to jump on social media from time to time. You can catch me on Twitter at Maryland's Cafe Soch, on Facebook, Maryland's Cafe Society, the website, Maryland'sCafeSociety.com, the blog, WordPress, usually by Thursday of every week, Maryland's Cafe Society on WordPress, and of course right here on YouTube. Got to tell you what love is before we get out of here. Love is when nothing beats being a dad. Aww. Yeah. Happy Father's Day once again to all the fathers out there. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. And love on your children. Love on them. No matter their age. Show them love, all right? All right, everybody. Well, that's it. Remember, if you don't do anything else as we move through this weekend and into next week, be sure that you live, you laugh, and you love. And as always, it's a pleasure and a privilege to hang out with you. We'll do it again next Wednesday, right here at Maryland's Cafe Society Radio on YouTube. Peace, everybody. Continue to be safe. And once again, Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to my daddy. Rest in heaven. Peace and love, everybody. I do not own rights to this music, by the way.